The air crackled with anticipation. A holy light bathed the assembled ranks, a beacon against the encroaching darkness. At their heart stood Bufus Christ, his very presence a source of strength and courage. His eyes, filled with a righteous fire, surveyed the battlefield. Beside him, Jaden the horse snorted, his hooves pawing the ground impatiently. Behind him, 1,000 steeds and their riders, the very earth trembling beneath their combined might, awaited his command. They were a force of nature, ready to unleash their fury upon the enemy. On Bufus Christ's other side stood Scott the caveman, his rugged features etched with grim determination. He gripped his club tightly, its weight a familiar comfort. Around him stood his brethren, 1,000 strong, their guttural war cries echoing across the plains. They were the unyielding shield, the unbreakable wall. Their loyalty to Bufus Christ was absolute. They would stand against any foe, no matter how fearsome. The fate of the world hung in the balance. This was no ordinary conflict. This was a battle for the very soul of existence, and Bufus Christ, with his loyal followers at his side, was ready to face the darkness. He would not falter, he would not yield, for he was the light, and the light would never be extinguished. A chilling wind swept across the battlefield, heralding the arrival of the enemy. The sky, once bright and clear, darkened ominously. The air grew heavy, thick with a palpable sense of dread. This was no natural storm. It was the touch of Froob, the embodiment of chaos and destruction. And then he appeared. Froob, his eyes burning like malevolent embers, scanned the opposing forces with disdainful amusement. A cruel smile played upon his lips, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth. He radiated an aura of power, ancient and evil, that sent shivers down the spines of even the bravest warriors. Behind him, a tide of grotesque creatures surged from the depths of the earth, the Frubazoids. Twisted mockeries of living beings, they shambled and crawled, their eyes gleaming with a hunger that chilled the soul. Their numbers were overwhelming, a seemingly endless horde of darkness and despair. Froob raised his hand, and a hush fell over his legions. He spoke, his voice a gravelly rasp that echoed across the battlefield, sending chills down the spines of even the bravest warriors. "This world is mine," he declared, his voice dripping with malice. "And all who oppose me will be crushed." A roar of defiance rose from the ranks of Bufus Christ's army. They would not be cowed by this monstrous display of power. They would fight, and they would not yield. For they knew that the fate of the world rested on their shoulders, and they would not fail. The first clash was deafening. With a terrifying roar, the Frubazoids surged forward, a wave of claws, teeth, and raw fury. The earth trembled beneath their charge. The very air seemed to crackle with malevolent energy. Jaden the horse, his eyes flashing with righteous anger, met the charge head-on. With a mighty whinny, he led the horse army in a thunderous countercharge. The ground shook, a symphony of hooves and steel. The impact was earth-shattering. Scott the caveman, his face a mask of primal rage, met the enemy with unflinching ferocity. He roared his defiance, his voice echoing the fury of his ancestors. His cavemen, wielding clubs and axes with bone-jarring force, carved a bloody path through the enemy ranks. The battlefield became a maelstrom of violence, a chaotic dance of death and destruction. The air was thick with the stench of blood and sweat, the clash of steel, and the agonized screams of the fallen. Everywhere one looked there was carnage. Yet, despite the ferocity of the assault, Bufus Christ's forces held. Inspired by their leader's unwavering resolve, they fought back with a courage born of desperation and faith. They would not break, they would not yield, for they knew that the fate of the world hung in the balance, and they would not fail.